I didn't lose my job because I failed. I lost it because I refused to ignore a single line in a log file. One line that proved someone inside my company was stealing classified military data. The next day, I was escorted out like a criminal. But what they didn't know was that I had already sent everything to the FBI. And within 48 hours, the people who fired me would be the ones in handcuffs. I don't have friends at work. I have logs. Logs don't lie. They don't sugarcoat reality or pretend everything is fine when it isn't. They tell you exactly who accessed what, when, and how, down to the millisecond. In my world, that kind of honesty is rare, necessary, addictive. My name is Daniel Brooks. I'm 39 years old and I'm the head of cybersecurity compliance at Titan Shield Defense, a mid-sized defense contractor just outside Austin, Texas. If you asked most people what I do, they'd probably say something vague like, IT guy. If you asked the Department of Defense, they'd say I'm the last firewall between classified operational data and a global disaster. I prefer the second definition. Most mornings start the same way. Black coffee, no sugar, no distractions. 3 monitors glowing in the dark like a cockpit. While the rest of the building slowly wakes up, people chatting, laughing, pretending they enjoy being here, I'm already knee-deep in audit trails and access reports. Patterns. That's what I look for. Because when something breaks, it doesn't start with an explosion. It starts with a deviation. A small, almost invisible shift in behavior that no one else notices. Except me. Morning, Dan. I didn't turn right away. I already knew who it was. Lisa Carter leaned against my doorframe, holding a paper cup like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She always looked composed from a distance. Sharp blazer, neat hair. But up close, the cracks showed. Dark circles. Tension in her jaw. Morning, I replied, eyes still on the screen. She stepped in anyway. You ever sleep? Logs don't stop at night. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Lisa was the closest thing I had to a friend in this building. Not because we talked a lot, we didn't, but because she understood silence, understood pressure. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and for a split second, something flickered across her face. Fear? Stress? Everything okay? I asked. She hesitated. Yeah, just hospital stuff. My mom. She waved it off quickly. It's nothing. It wasn't nothing. It never was. But I didn't push. People either tell you things or they don't. That's another rule I've learned. She nodded toward my screens. Find anything interesting? Not yet. Meaning you will. Meaning I always do. She let out a quiet breath. That's what scares me. After she left, the room felt quieter. Not peaceful, just empty. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. For a moment, I considered stepping away, grabbing another coffee, pretending to be normal. Then my phone buzzed. Jake. I stared at the name for a few seconds before answering. Dan, my younger brother's voice came through, casual as always. You still alive in that bunker of yours? Office, I corrected. Same thing. I didn't respond. He sighed. Look, I'm in town this weekend. Thought maybe we grab a beer, like normal people? Busy. You're always busy. And you're always reckless. A pause. Yeah, he said quietly. Guess that's the difference between us. It wasn't an argument, not anymore. Just distance. The kind that builds slowly over years until it feels permanent. Take care of yourself, Jake. Yeah, you too, man. The line went dead. I set the phone down and turned back to my screens. Rows of data. Clean. Predictable. Controlled. Unlike people. Across the glass walls of the office, I could see the executive floor above. Bigger offices. Better lighting. Decisions made by people who never had to check a single log in their lives. Up there, rules were flexible. Down here, they were everything. And I had a feeling, sooner or later, someone upstairs was going to break one. Anomalies don't announce themselves. They whisper. It was 0642 when I saw it. A spike where there shouldn't be one. Node Atlas 12, our most restricted server cluster designed to operate in near isolation. No external handshake, no exceptions. But there it was. A thin, jagged line cutting through a flat baseline like a crack in glass. I leaned forward, fingers already moving across the keyboard. Pull logs, cross-reference timestamps, trace origin. Account, devadmin07. My jaw tightened. That account had been decommissioned 3 years ago after a federal compliance audit. I personally signed off on its termination. Seeing it active again felt like finding a sealed vault door slightly open. Dan? Lisa's voice pulled me back for half a second. She stepped inside, slower than yesterday, her usual composure replaced with something sharper, nervous energy. "You okay?" she asked. I tilted one monitor toward her. "Tell me what you see." She leaned in, brushing a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "Unauthorized access attempt. Atlas 12. Wait, this account shouldn't exist." "It doesn't." Her eyes flicked to me. "Then how is it?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." She swallowed, stepping back slightly. "Maybe it's a system glitch?" "No," I said calmly. "Glitches don't authenticate credentials." That's when I noticed it. Her hands. Slight tremor. "Lisa," I said, softer this time. "Something else going on?" She hesitated, then shook her head too quickly. "No, this feels big." "It is." Before she could respond, a quiet knock came from the half-open door. Kevin Park stood there, barely stepping inside. Mid-20s, thin frame, slightly hunched posture like he was trying to take up less space than he occupied. His badge still looked new, edges too clean. Fresh hire. Mr. Brooks?" he said, voice tight. "Do you have a minute?" I gestured him in. "Close the door." He did, carefully. Kevin avoided eye contact at first, staring somewhere between the floor and my desk. I think I saw something last night, on the network." Lisa crossed her arms. "What kind of something?" Kevin hesitated. "I wasn't sure if it mattered. I didn't want to overreact." "You're here now," I said, "so it mattered." He nodded, exhaling. "There was a manual override request in the system queue. High-level authorization. It didn't go through the normal compliance channel." "Who approved it?" I asked. Kevin looked up this time, and that's when I saw it. Fear. I couldn't see the full signature. It was masked, but the clearance tag... He swallowed. "Executive level." The room went quiet. Lisa shifted uncomfortably. "That doesn't make sense. Even execs don't bypass." "They do," I cut in, "if they think they can." I turned back to the screen. The anomaly wasn't just a glitch. It wasn't just a mistake. It was intentional. Someone had reached into a system that was supposed to be untouchable and flipped a switch. From above. And suddenly, this wasn't just about security anymore. It was about power. Power always leaves a signature. You just have to know where to look. By 0715, I had isolated the authorization chain behind the override request. It wasn't easy. Whoever approved it had masked their credentials behind multiple layers of executive clearance tokens. But systems don't forget. They just need pressure. And I know where to apply it. I leaned back slightly as the final identifier surfaced on my screen. Authorization origin. Ryan Cole. I exhaled slowly. Lisa was still standing behind me. "Who is it?" I didn't answer immediately. I turned the monitor toward her. Her face tightened. "Ryan Cole?" She blinked. "The CEO's son?" "Chief Innovation Officer," I corrected. 28. No federal clearance. "And he just unlocked Atlas 12? "Looks like he didn't just unlock it," I said. "He bypassed the entire chain of command to do it." Lisa ran a hand through her hair, pacing once across the room. "This is insane, Dan. He can't do that. There are protocols, there are rules," I said, "for people like us." Before she could respond, I pulled up internal personnel records. Ryan Cole. Age, 28. Tall, around 6 feet. Lean build, the kind that comes from expensive gyms, not discipline. Dark hair styled just messy enough to look intentional. Always in fitted blazers over graphic tees, like he couldn't decide if he wanted to be taken seriously or admired. Background? 2 failed startups. 1 crypto platform that collapsed after a data leak. one AI analytics tool that never made it past beta. And yet, here he was, Chief Innovation Officer. I'd seen him a few times in the building. Loud, charismatic, the kind of guy who walked into rooms like they already belonged to him. People laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny, because of who his father was. Dan, Lisa's voice dropped. If this traces back to him, you can't just... I can, I said. You shouldn't. She stepped closer, her tone sharper now. You don't understand how this works at that level. People disappear professionally over things like this. They don't disappear, I replied. They get replaced. Her silence told me she didn't find that comforting. My phone buzzed. Jake. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. What? I said. Still breathing? Jake's voice came through, half joking, half something else. For now, he chuckled. Listen, I ran into someone last night. Guy works in corporate law. Mentioned your company. Said there's a lot of movement happening up top. I said nothing. Jake continued, tone shifting. Dan, whatever's going on over there, don't get involved. Guys like you follow rules. Guys like them, they rewrite them. I don't have that luxury. You have a choice, he said. Stay out of it. I looked back at the screen, at Ryan Cole's name sitting there like a loaded weapon. No, I said quietly. I don't. I ended the call. Behind me, Lisa crossed her arms, her posture defensive now. If you push this, I can't back you, Dan. I'm serious. I nodded once. I'm not asking you to. But the truth was, this wasn't just about Ryan anymore. It was about a system that let someone like him walk straight into a classified environment, and no one stopped him. Until now. There's a moment in every breach when it stops being a risk and becomes damage. I found that moment at 0803. The data flow graph on my screen didn't spike this time. It surged. Outbound traffic from Atlas 12, steady, controlled, intentional. Not a probe, not a test, a transfer. I zoomed in, isolating the packet stream. Destination, external cloud endpoint. Encrypted, but not ours. My chest tightened. He's not just accessing it, I muttered. He's moving it. Moving what? Lisa asked from behind me, her voice thinner than usual. I didn't answer. I pulled up the file map instead. Logistics models, deployment simulations, real-time terrain response data, classified. All of it. Dan, Lisa stepped closer, her eyes scanning the screen. Tell me that's not what I think it is. It is. She took a step back like the floor shifted under her. Oh my God. Before I could respond, my inbox pinged. Sender, Kevin Park. Subject, you need to see this. I opened it. Attached was a compressed log file, time-stamped from 0412 a.m. Kevin must have pulled it before the system scrubbed the trail. I decrypted it. There it was. Command strings, manual extraction protocols, API bridge initialization. And at the center of it, user, R. Cole Executive Ryan Cole. No ambiguity, no masking, just proof. I leaned back slowly, exhaling through my nose. He's routing it through an AI platform, I said. Probably training models, optimization, prediction, whatever he thinks he's building. Lisa shook her head, panic creeping in. He can't just upload classified military data to some cloud service. That's illegal, I finished. On multiple levels. Her voice dropped. Then why is no one stopping him? I didn't answer. Because we both knew. People saw. People knew. But Ryan wasn't just anyone. Lisa turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. Dan, I need this job. I looked at her. Her composure was gone now, completely. My mom's treatment, it's not covered, not fully. I'm already behind on payments. Her voice cracked slightly, but she held it together. If I get pulled into this, if I'm even mentioned. You won't be, I said. You can't promise that. She was right. I couldn't. Silence settled between us. On my screen, the transfer bar continued to climb. 12%, 18%, 24%. Every percentage point felt heavier than the last. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This wasn't a warning. This was happening, right now. I stood up, walking a few steps away from the desk. My reflection stared back at me from the dark glass window. 20 years of doing things by the book, following protocols, believing the system worked. Behind me, Lisa whispered, "What are you going to do?" I closed my eyes for a second. Company loyalty, federal law, people's lives, all colliding in one decision. When I opened them again, I already knew the answer. "I'm going to document everything." Lisa didn't respond. She didn't need to, because we both understood what came next, even if neither of us said it out loud. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, every piece of evidence laid out like a case file in a courtroom no one knew existed yet. Logs, screenshots, packet traces, Kevin's file. Ryan Cole didn't just cross a line, he erased it. At 02:17 a.m. I sent the report. Not to internal compliance, not to the board. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Cyber Division. Subject line, unauthorized extraction of classified defense data. I stared at the sent confirmation for a long time. There was no undo button. The next morning felt too normal. People walked the halls, coffee machines hummed, conversations floated like nothing had changed. But something had. At 09:03, my phone rang. "Daniel, this is Margaret Hale, head of Human Resources. Could you come to my office immediately?" Margaret Hale was in her early 50s, tall, impeccably dressed, silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun that never moved. Her voice always carried the same tone, controlled, measured, like every word had been pre-approved before it left her mouth. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "I'll be there," I said. I already knew. Ryan was in the room when I walked in, leaning casually against the window, hands in his pockets, like this was just another meeting on his calendar. He didn't look worried. He looked entertained. Margaret gestured to the chair. "Please sit, Daniel." I didn't. "What is this about?" I asked. She folded her hands. "We've received multiple reports regarding your conduct, disruptive behavior, creating unnecessary tension across departments." Ryan smirked slightly. I looked at him. "You mean stopping a federal crime?" Margaret didn't react. "This isn't a discussion, this is a decision." She slid a folder across the desk. "Effective immediately, your employment with Titan Shield Defense is terminated." Silence. I felt it, not shock, not anger, just clarity. "For doing my job," I said. "For failing to align with company culture," she corrected. "Of course." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my badge, and placed it on the desk. No hesitation, no negotiation. Ryan finally spoke, voice light. "You're too rigid, man. The world's changing. You either adapt or you get left behind." I held his gaze. "Some rules don't change." For a split second, his smile faded. The walkout was quiet. No one stopped me. No one said anything. Lisa stood near her desk as I passed. Her eyes were red, her lips pressed tight like she was holding something back. She didn't speak, but she looked at me, and that was enough. Jake was waiting outside, leaning against his truck, arms crossed. Same worn leather jacket, same restless energy, but his eyes were different today. Serious. "They fired you," he said. "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "Figures." We stood there for a moment. Then he shook his head. "You know, I used to think you were just stubborn, always choosing rules over people." I said nothing. He looked at me again. "But now?" He exhaled. "You were right." That landed harder than anything else that day. As I drove away, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Daniel Brooks?" a calm male voice said. "Yes." "This is Special Agent Carter, FBI Cyber Division." A pause. "We received your report." I looked at the road ahead. "Good," I said. "Your timing," he continued, "was critical." Something shifted in my chest. Not relief, not yet, but something close. The war didn't start with sirens. It started with silence. I met Special Agent Carter that same afternoon at a roadside diner just outside Austin. The kind of place where no one asks questions and everyone minds their own business. He arrived exactly on time. Mid-40s, broad shoulders under a plain navy jacket. Clean cut, Sharp eyes that missed nothing. The kind of man who didn't need to introduce authority. He carried it. "Daniel Brooks," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "You did the right thing." I didn't respond. He placed a slim black folder on the table. "We've already mirrored Titan Shield's internal systems. Full network capture. Your report gave us enough to act quietly." "Quietly?" I asked. He nodded. "If we move too fast, they'll panic, wipe everything. We need them comfortable." Comfortable, while committing federal crimes. "That data?" I said. "It's already out." Carter shook his head slightly. "No, Ryan thinks he's pushing it to a third-party AI cloud. He's not." I frowned. "Explain." "We intercepted the endpoint," Carter said. "Rerouted the traffic. Everything he sends goes to us now." For the first time in 2 days, I felt something close to relief. That night I got a secure message. Kevin. We met in a parking garage 3 levels underground. He looked worse than before. Pale, eyes darting, hoodie pulled tight like it could hide him. "They talked to me," he said immediately. "FBI, this morning." "You're safe," I said. He shook his head. "They said I'm a witness now, protected. But if this blows up..." "It will," I said. "But you did the right thing." Kevin looked at me, searching for certainty I couldn't fully give. "I didn't sign anything," he added quickly. "They tried to get me to clarify the logs, said I must have misunderstood." "Ryan." "Don't change a word," I said. "Not for anyone." He nodded slowly. "Lisa called me around midnight. Her voice was shaking. 'Dan, I messed up.'" I sat up instantly. "What happened?" "They brought me into a meeting, Ryan and Margaret." Her breathing was uneven. "They gave me a report, said it was just internal clarification. But it wasn't. It rewrites everything. Makes it look like the access was approved, like nothing was wrong." My jaw tightened. "Did you sign it?" A pause. "No," she whispered. "But they're pushing. Hard." I closed my eyes for a second. "Listen to me," I said, steady. "You don't sign anything. Not a word. They're trying to build a narrative." "I can't lose this job, Dan," she said, voice breaking. "My mom..." "I know," I cut in gently. "But if you sign that, it won't just be your job. It'll be your future." Silence. Then a quiet breath. "What do I do?" I leaned forward, gripping the phone tighter. "You tell the truth," I said. "When the time comes, you tell everything." Her voice steadied just a little. "Okay, okay." When the call ended, I sat there in the dark. No badge, no office. But the system was still moving, just not the way they thought. Ryan believed he was winning, but he wasn't. He was walking deeper into a trap, one he helped build. Judgment doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it walks in quietly and closes the door behind you. The Titan Shield executive conference room had never looked more polished. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a long obsidian table, screens glowing with Ryan's presentation, sleek graphics, bold claims. Revolutionizing military intelligence through adaptive AI integration. I watched it all through a secure feed on my tablet sitting in my truck across the street. Ryan stood at the front, exactly as expected. Confident. Untouchable. He wore a tailored charcoal suit this time, no more startup t-shirts. His hair perfectly styled, his posture relaxed like he owned not just the room, but the future. Beside him stood his father, Charles Cole, the CEO. Late 50s, silver hair, commanding presence. A man used to control, of people, of outcomes. Across the table sat representatives from the Department of Defense. Among them was Colonel David Mercer, early 50s, rigid posture, square jaw, the kind of officer who measured words like ammunition. His eyes didn't move much, but when they did, they missed nothing. Ryan clicked to the next slide. "And by integrating real-time classified logistics data, we've reduced predictive response time by over 60%. The door opened. No announcement, no warning. 3 agents stepped in first. Dark suits, calm faces, controlled movement. Then more followed. Agent Carter was among them. Everything stopped. "What is this?" Charles Cole demanded, voice sharp. Carter didn't raise his. "Federal Bureau of Investigation. This meeting is over." Ryan laughed lightly, like it was a misunderstanding. There must be some mistake. There isn't, Carter said. He placed a document on the table, arrest warrants. The room shifted. Colonel Mercer leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing, not surprised, just confirming. Ryan's smile faded. On what grounds? Charles snapped. Unauthorized extraction and distribution of classified defense data, Carter replied. Multiple violations of federal law. Silence. Then, Lisa Carter, Carter called. The door opened again. Lisa stepped in. She looked different. Still nervous, but steady. Shoulders squared, eyes clear. For the first time since I'd known her, she wasn't afraid. They asked me to lie, she said, voice firm. To sign documents that weren't true. Ryan stared at her. You don't understand what you're doing. No, she replied. I finally do. Behind her, Kevin entered, hesitant but present. Carter nodded toward him. This is Kevin Park. He provided supporting system logs. Kevin swallowed but didn't look away. Colonel Mercer spoke for the first time. That will be sufficient. Ryan stepped back slowly. This is insane. You can't. Carter moved forward. Yes, he said. We can. The click of handcuffs was quiet. Final. Outside, I stepped out of my truck just as they were escorted out. Jake stood nearby, leaning against the hood, watching everything unfold. He looked at me, then back at them. Damn, he said quietly. You really took them down. I didn't answer, because it wasn't about taking anyone down. It was about stopping something that should have never started. Jake shook his head, a small smile forming. Told you, you weren't just stubborn. I watched as the car doors closed on Ryan and his father. Yeah, I said. Guess I'm starting to believe that. Justice doesn't fix everything, but it clears the ground for something better to grow. 3 weeks after the arrests, I walked back into Titan Shield Defense. Same building, different air. The glass doors opened automatically, but this time, no one avoided eye contact. No whispers behind my back, just quiet acknowledgement. Respect. Daniel, the voice came from ahead. Evelyn Grant, interim CEO. Early 60s, tall, slender, steel gray hair cut sharply at shoulder length. Her posture was precise, almost military, but her eyes held something rare, clarity without arrogance. She had spent 20 years in federal oversight before joining the board, the kind of leader who didn't chase power. She understood it. Welcome back, she said. Not if, not would you consider, just welcome back. I'm here to listen, I replied. She nodded once. Good, because we're done improvising. We walked into the executive conference room, the same one where everything had collapsed, now stripped down. No flashy screens, no staged confidence, just reality. The board voted unanimously, Evelyn continued. We want you as Chief Security Officer, full authority over all compliance and cyber operations. No interference. I studied her for a moment. No shortcuts? I asked. None, she said. Not anymore. Whew, that was enough. I'll take it. Lisa was waiting outside when I stepped out. She looked lighter. Still the same sharp features, but the weight in her eyes had shifted. Not gone, but manageable. I heard, she said, a small smile forming. CSO. You earned your part of this too. She shook her head. I just told the truth. That's rarer than you think. She hesitated. They approved the support fund for my mom's treatment. I nodded. Good. Her voice softened. Thank you for not letting me fold. You didn't, I said. That's what matters. Kevin looked different too, less hunched, shoulders straighter, still quiet but no longer invisible. Senior systems engineer, he said, almost like he didn't believe it yet. You earned that, I told him. He nodded. I almost backed out. But you didn't. That was the difference. Later that evening, Jake and I sat on the tailgate of his truck, watching the sun drop behind the Texas skyline. You know, he said, tossing me a cold beer, I used to think you lived in a black and white world. Rules, lines, no flexibility. I opened the bottle. And now? He shrugged. Now I think someone has to. We sat in silence for a moment, Not awkward, just easy. Proud of you, man, he added. I looked at him. Yeah, I said. Me too. 2 months later, the system was different. Zero trust architecture, biometric access layers, real-time anomaly detection tied directly to federal compliance protocols. But more importantly, the people were different. No more silence. No more looking away. I built a team that spoke up, questioned, challenged. Because security isn't just code, it's culture. And this time, we got it right. What would you have done if you were in my place? Would you stay silent to protect your job, or risk everything to do what's right? Was I loyal to the mission, or did I betray the company that trusted me? And Lisa, was she weak for being afraid, or strong for finally telling the truth? If you were Jake, would you stand by your brother, or walk away to protect yourself? I really want to hear your thoughts. Whose side are you on? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, real choices, real consequences, real justice, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.